In the world of fraud, cases are pursued by two separate yet equally important groups: the Small Business Association, who investigates the crime, and podcasters who ridicule those who commit the crime. These are their stories.
If you'd like to earn CPE credit for listening to this episode, visit earmarkcpe.com. Download the app, take a short quiz, and get your CPE certificate. Continuing education has never been so easy. And now, on to the episode.
This is Oh My Fraud, a true crime podcast where crooks push papers around a desk instead of people out of windows. I'm Caleb Newquist.
And I'm Greg Kyte.
Greg, I know that you like a little self-esteem boost right at the top of the show. So, would you like me to read a recent 5-star review?
I would love for you to read a recent 5-star review, but only if it's complimentary of both our swearing and our theme music.
You are in luck, my friend. Here we go. Talk, it's me, writes on Apple Podcasts. Best accounting podcast. Every episode is interesting and informative, and you can earn CPE. Love the host, love the swearing, and love the theme music.
Awesome. Love all around. Caleb, even for our producer, Zach Frank, who picked the theme music, who needs Zoloft when you've got reviews like that? I'm flushing my prescription of Zoloft down the toilet right fucking now. If your love for Oh My Fraud knows no bounds, rate the show or leave us a review. And also remember, we are available as keynote speakers and in-house trainers on fraud and ethics. So if that's something you'd like, send us an email at ohmyfraud@earmarkcpe.com for pricing and availability.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll even bring in a band to play the theme music. Okay, Greg, here's a question.
Yes.
Is there anything in your past that you sometimes worry will come back to haunt you?
Oh, yeah, 100% old stand-up bits that haven't aged well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's every stand-up comedian. I've been doing stand-up comedy for over 20 years now, and stuff that seemed edgy, 15, 20 years ago is like full-on cringy now. Like for real, there's stuff that I wrote and performed way back then that at the time, like literally I was going like, this is great. I'm a total ally. And now like when I like look up my stuff on YouTube or whatever and watch it, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I hope I never get nominated to become a Supreme Court justice, because this is gonna like make my confirmation hearings so difficult for me and for President Michelle Obama. It'll be the worst, and I don't want to do that to her, but it's out there.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. All right.
Yeah. What about you? You got any landmines that you planted in the past?
I mean, so as a lot of our listeners know, I used to run a website called Going Concern. You wrote for it, Greg.
I did.
Do you remember that?
Yeah,
you did. You wrote a lot of funny pieces for it.
You pushed me hard on that. Content.
No, I mean that's what I do.
You did a good job. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I ran that site for a long time, from June of 2009 to May of 2018. And so over the course of that time, it's probably fair to say that I made lots of people mad.
Yeah. I would think so.
I was a journalist and a blogger and a gossip and everything that entails those things.
Yeah.
I was airing a lot of the accounting world's dirty laundry. And so, some of it was important dirty laundry and some of it was not.
Right.
Maybe you could call it petty.
It's okay. I'm not going to fight you on that.
So sometimes I think about the stuff that I wrote and, in the past and maybe people who were in those articles are holding grudges and that might come back to me in some way. But, it's been nearly 6 years since I ran Going Concern. So I don't know. I don't think about it too much, but every once in a while, like I'll stumble across something or some memory will pop in my brain. And I'll wonder if someone like Steve Buscemi's character in Billy Madison is out there with like my name on a list.
like polishing a rifle.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be horrible. I hope that's
Terrible.
not the case. Yeah.
No, yeah, no, I hope so. Yeah, but that's more
Yeah,
or less.
well-
yeah, I'd have to think real hard if there's anything else, but that's mostly.
That's similar. That's similar to a fear I have from when I was a public school teacher. There's one student that I had back when I taught middle school math,
Yep.
where I'm like, if I ran into him like in public and he just cold cocked me in the face, I'd be like, I deserved that one.
Had that coming.
I had that coming. So there's one student out of the hundreds that I had. There was one who's like, yeah, you get that one for free. I
get a
agree.
free one.
I actually agree with you. So. Well, for most people, the COVID-19 pandemic is slowly becoming a distant memory. One day, people remember it as a time when they learned how to bake sourdough bread, or when they realized that they were married to someone who was weird or that they didn't like very much.
Yet, for other people, the pandemic marks a time when they made some very poor decisions.
Yeah, like that ivermectin and bleach enema that I experimented with.
Oh, I wasn't actually talking about that.
Oh.
I was
It was-
talking about
It was a
people
bad
who
decision.
Well, I mean, it sounds like it could have worked out fine.
I didn't.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, anyway, what I was referring to was people who decided to get pandemic relief aid fraudulently.
Oh, I did not experiment with that.
Oh, well, that's good. Today we're talking about PPP, EIDL, ERC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The U.S. government provided more than $1 trillion in pandemic aid, an enormous amount. Some estimates put it at more than $200 billion of it was given to, quote, potentially fraudulent actors.
And recently, the Department of Justice's COVID-19 Enforcement Task Force released its 2024 report. And since there was some good stuff in there, we thought we'd talk about it today.
Okay, Greg. The COVID-19 Fraud Enforcement Task Force 2024 report came out in April of 2024. And here is something from the executive summary.
Lay it on
Quote,
me.
Yeah, I got it. The COVID-19 Fraud Enforcement Task Force is pleased to present in this 2024 report a compilation of its member agencies' accomplishments to date to combat pandemic fraud. While the CFETF, that is not a great acronym, but it's government. So the CFETF has made significant progress to identify, investigate, and punish COVID-19 fraud. Substantial work remains in the face of numerous challenges.
That's I think that's telling right there that we're already the pandemic. I mean, we're so far past the pandemic, but they're like, we're just getting started.
Honestly. And I mean, I think if you check out this report, which of course is in the show notes, they say right in there, I don't remember when this was, maybe you do, Greg, but I think it was maybe last year where they extended the statute of limitations. So like they're basically going to be prosecuting people for the rest of the decade. Like it's just,
which makes sense. There was so much that was done. I'm glad that I mean, we could have a whole conversation about why do statutes of limitations exist to begin with.
Right. Okay. So the Attorney General established the CFETF
Yep.
in
Nailed
2021. And since its inception, it's charged over 3,500 defendants. It has over 400 civil settlements and judgments, and over $1.4 billion in fraudulently obtained CARES Act funds seized or forfeited.
Which is comical when you've already said that they estimated $200 billion of funds were, that they estimate. So it's like, oh, wow, you got 0.7% of that back.
Yeah.
Good work.
It's weird because I feel like I've seen other numbers floating around in terms of the amount they've recovered, and it isn't clear to how much has actually been recovered.
Right.
But what is clear that it is a fraction
Teeny.
of the amount that they
Right.
suspect was obtained fraudulently.
Yeah. But again, if they got the rest of 2020s to, I mean, hopefully that number will get significantly larger, but there's no way they're going to get all of it.
Right.
I would be shocked if they even got a quarter of it back.
Yeah. So one other fun detail in this COVID-19 Fraud Enforcement Task Force 2024 report is that the Department of Justice set up strike teams, which I love I love a strike team.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't love a strike team?
Yeah.
Right. So they have what they call a COVID-19 fraud enforcement strike force across 6 federal districts. Okay. And these strike forces essentially pursue the most impactful criminal COVID fraud cases. And they either involve large amounts of loss, overseas actors, violent offenders, and perps who defrauded multiple pandemic aid programs. Okay?
Yeah, makes sense.
And the 5 strike forces are the District of Maryland, the Southern District of Florida. There's a joint task force in the Eastern and Central Districts of California, New Jersey, and Colorado. So those are the 5.
Okay. Seems like there's a lot of geography just left uncovered by that. You're in Colorado. You must be in a hotbed of illegal activity. Clearly,
Yeah.
I mean, Utah, we're really the sainthood state, so I get it that they don't. They're like, we're good.
Okay. With all that background, let's get into a few more cases of pandemic relief fraud.
Datelined, Maryland. In February of 2022, twin brothers Jerry and Jaleel Phillips of Capitol Heights, Maryland, were initially charged with obtaining more than $1 million in PPP and EIDL loans and unemployment insurance benefits because, Caleb, if you remember, they had retooled unemployment to be very, very generous for anyone who lost their jobs at this time. I had several comedian friends who were so happy that they got laid off during the pandemic because they're like, this sweet unemployment money is going to let me do stand-up with impunity till this. I mean, never mind. There was no place to do stand-up, but that was at least
right on
the
Zoom.
Yeah,
where they couldn't hear where they couldn't hear the laughing.
Yeah, where comedy went to die.
Yeah.
Regardless, twin brothers Jerry and Jaleel created numerous financial and email accounts with aliases like Kenneth Williams, Jamal Hopkins, and Alan Gator. That's the best one there. Alan,
I like the Alan Gator.
Alan Gator. That's where they're like, I dare you to arrest me, bitches. That's basically what an alias of Alan Gator says. Those aliases had fake Maryland driver's licenses behind them, along with bogus Social Security numbers and birth dates. And at the time that the twins were charged, the DOJ alleged that they used the money to purchase a 2020 Camaro, furniture, home improvement items and services, and they also opened, quote, multiple accounts in popular digital currency exchange platforms because nothing says I didn't do anything wrong like a full Bitcoin wallet.
I have to say, in this era, in this, the early 2020s, if you are accused of something, of a financial crime, or maybe any crime at all, and there isn't a cryptocurrency element, I feel like you're doing it wrong.
Yeah,
there has to be a crypto. There has to be crypto something.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. And and just the whole, I would say for some reason I do feel like PPP loan fraudsters and crypto bros wear the same clothes. They're indistinguishable just in appearance.
They certainly fancy the same kinds of cars.
It's not a proven theory. I'll give you that, but it's
a good
theory.
hunch.
It's a
good hunch.
Thank
it's
you.
a good hunch
Thank
is what
you.
it is.
Okay, so again, we got the two brothers, Jerry and Jaleel. Jaleel pleaded guilty in November of 2022 to federal wire fraud conspiracy, and Jerry pleaded guilty in February of 2023. And when Jerry pleaded guilty, he got hit with federal wire fraud conspiracy, aggravated identity theft, which is when you steal someone's identity and you're just upset about it, and illegal possession of a machine gun because nothing says I didn't do anything wrong, like owning a fucking machine gun. Authorities also recovered 4 ghost guns in total from Jerry that he had purchased online using one of the fake aliases from the PPP fraud.
They love that.
Yeah. Who? The authorities?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. because it really makes
untraceable gun. I bought an untraceable gun with a fake name. Oh,
right.
sounds fun.
What's wrong? Second Amendment, bitch.
Right. It's your
Yeah.
answer for everything, dude.
But with these ghost guns, he illegally modified one of them into a machine gun capable of firing multiple rounds with one pull of a trigger, because that's what a machine gun is.
Maybe he needed it for that aggravated identity theft.
Yeah, he would just to shoot some bullets through some fake driver's licenses. Yeah, that's probably it. Since all of this was clearly how legislators intended pandemic relief funds to be used, Jaleel was sentenced in June 2023 to 30 months in prison, and Machine Gun Jerry got sentenced to 7 years.
Dateline, Florida. In October 2023, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida brought charges in 17 separate cases against employees of the Broward County Sheriff's Office. 8 of these folks were in law enforcement, 9 in the Department of Detention. According to the Department of Justice, these were, quote, independent schemes to defraud the Small Business Administration and participating lenders through the Paycheck Protection Program and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Programs. When the charges were announced, the defendants were accused of receiving nearly $500,000 in assistance unlawfully. Okay, Greg.
Yeah.
17 people and apparently not a conspiracy? Does that seem weird?
Yeah. This was a conspiracy.
Was it just like a hotbed of like bad behavior?
I mean,
like
they're all in the same. Yeah, they're all in
all
the
same employer,
county sheriff's office,
right?
Or the same Department of Detention.
Yeah,
in Florida. Yeah, this was a conspiracy. These guys were telling each other how to do it. At least there was at least like a lunch and learn that happened there.
Definitely. One former sheriff's deputy, Stephanie Diane Smith of Sunrise, Florida, was convicted of 2 counts of wire fraud at a trial in March 2023. Quote, Smith applied for and received 2 PPP loans for herself as a sole proprietor doing business as Children First Basketball Training and Agape Smith Vending, respectively. I don't know what those names are. No idea what are those.
No,
businesses?
those names are no need to investigate here. These are clearly charities.
Yeah. Yep. These businesses, these applications were based on material false information about each business's total amount of gross income for the year 2019, including a falsified IRS tax form submitted with each application. Smith also sought and received forgiveness of both fraudulently obtained PPP loans, which totaled over $31,000 in principal and interest.
That is very interesting that she didn't get away with it.
Yeah.
With only 31,000. 31,000 was dust on the scales for this thing.
You know, it's one of those things where I suppose if you would have, let me ask you this, Greg. If you obtain pandemic aid funds fraudulently, do you then try to figure out a way to pay it back, or do you just double down and go for the forgiveness?
Oh, you absolutely double down and go for the forgiveness, especially with that.
That's what happened here.
But that was the thing, because if you remember some of the minutia of the PPP loan forgiveness program, there was all these hoops that you had to jump through and prove that you spent it in the right way. And then like right at the finish line, somebody who was in charge of PPP was like, you know what? If your loans were under $150,000, just forget it.
Yeah.
We don't even fucking care. Just keep the goddamn money and you're good. That's how. Which was great because I applied for 2 different PPP loans for 2 of the businesses that I'm in charge of, and we got them. It was not, I think combined they were less than $50,000 total, and I was keeping my finger on the pulse of what I'd have to do and make sure I had all the documentation for forgiveness. But I had all of my friends who ran firms who were just, sweating, going, "Oh, I got to take care of this for all my clients, and there's all these things and all these rules and everything's changing every minute." And I was like going, "Yeah, fortunately I've just got 2 loans I have to worry about. It's pretty easy stuff. I'm just going to kind of hold on till the dust settles." And then everything sort of landed in my lap where it's like, oh, I'm good. Oh, okay, cool. So like I said, I see $31,000 for Children First Basketball Training and Agape Smith Vending. And I go, why is it Well, you even said they were going after big offenders. This must have been low hanging fruit, not big
Well,
offender
I think there's two things at play here. Number one, it's a law enforcement. It's law enforcement. It's Broward County Sheriff's Office.
Yeah. Okay.
And so the corruption, I guess, is probably the factor there.
That makes
Whether
sense.
it was $300 or it was $30,000.
Yeah.
I think the fact that more than a dozen employees of the county sheriff was the draw.
That makes sense. And in aggregate, that was only one of the players. So in aggregate, it was probably a lot of money they're talking about.
So I will say Smith was the only one that I saw who went all the way to trial.
Okay.
Based on the most recent reporting that I found, 4 of the 17 have been sentenced, and most of them have got probation and ordered to pay restitution. And given the fact that the actual dollar amount, even in the aggregate, isn't that much compared to a lot of the stories that we've told, it doesn't surprise me that most of them got probation and stuff. But there's still a lot of pending cases. And there were, I noticed that in a couple, there's a couple of sergeants. I think there's a lieutenant. So in terms of the rank of some of these sheriff's employees, some of them were, they weren't nobodies.
Yeah. But also interesting thought experiment. If you send a Department of Detention officer to jail, that's not going to, that's mercy to say you can just be under house arrest, bro.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay. You want more Florida?
I always want more Florida.
You got it, man. All right. On March 7th, 2024, Andre Lorque, 39, of Miami, he was sentenced to 71 months in prison for fraudulently obtaining COVID-19 relief loans and grants under the PPP, EIDL, and the Shuttered Venue Operator Grant. Greg, have you heard of that one? I can't believe I've never heard of that.
I've never heard of the Shuttered Venue Operator Grant. There's part of me that wonders if it was maybe a Florida-specific program.
You know what? Now that I think about it, I think it had to do with bars and restaurants.
Oh,
I think it was
okay.
one of the. I think it was early in the pandemic, and I think it was. And somebody who's out there that knows this better than we do will probably send in a wise ass email. But that as you were talking there, that just kind of it kind of bounced around my brain. I'm like, oh, that might have been one of the earliest programs.
Well, I'll tell you,
as it related to bars and restaurants.
Bars and restaurants took it hard.
Yeah,
for the pandemic. Yeah,
yeah, especially early on.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe that's what that was.
Yeah.
In any case, Lorque, he was holding himself out as a tax preparer, and in so doing, obtained approximately $4.4 million in COVID relief funds from his fraudulent scheme. And he used the proceeds to, quote, purchase, among other things, 2 Tesla S models, a Lamborghini Urus,
yes,
a Porsche Panamera GTS, a diamond AP watch, a rose gold and diamond pendant with his company's logo, a 0.5 kilogram gold chain with 70 carats of diamonds, and a 1 kilogram gold chain. This
Holy
guy,
crap.
yeah,
That's some heavy chains, man.
heavy chains,
Yeah.
heavy chains.
A 2.2 pound gold chain.
I mean,
That's like
70 carats of diamonds is kind of insane.
Yeah, he wants to get mugged.
Yeah. Anyway, if you get a chance, believe it or not, his Instagram is still out there.
Oh.
So go check that out. Lots of posing with cars and jet skis and jewelry. It's basically a rap video is what it is. That's what's going on. And it's fantastic. But yeah, some nice loot.
Yeah.
But yeah, he got caught. 71 months. And someone else has those 70 carats of diamonds now.
I guess the nice thing is that's one of those there were assets to seize with him.
Indeed. Right.
Instead of
right.
he didn't just spend it all on champagne and cocaine. He actually you can there's resale value with a 2.2 pound gold necklace.
But what I'm not sure about is the rose gold and diamond pendant with his company logo. Who's gonna want that?
I do. I'll take it. I'll wear that with pride.
Okay.
Right along with my Arthur Anderson polo shirt.
All right. One more Florida story.
Yes, please.
All right. On February 5th, 2024, Maritza Morales Hermoso, 58, of Miami, was sentenced to 70 months in prison for laundering. This is 70 months. They like this ballpark 70 months, I think, these judges for these COVID crimes. Anyway, 70 months in prison for money laundering of nearly $2 million in fraudulent COVID-19 relief loans after pleading guilty in October 2023.
Okay.
Hermoso and her co-conspirators filed false and fraudulent loan applications from multiple companies under both the PPP and EIDL programs, despite the fact that several of those companies had no payroll at all and were not actively doing business at the time the loan applications were submitted.
That was because that was the whole, if you remember it, that was the driver for how much you were eligible for.
Yeah.
Was based on full-time employees and their wages. Which again was why mine were very small, because we have very small staff. So when you've got 2 employees, you don't get a whole lot of money. And if you have 0 employees, you get 0 money.
Yeah, right. The applications were supported by fabricated payroll documents and inflated employee numbers. As a result of these false and fraudulent applications, a California-based SBA-approved PPP lender dispersed close to $2 million in fraudulent loan proceeds to bank accounts controlled by Hermoso.
Wow.
So, how did she spend that money? I'll tell you how. She gambled at South Florida casinos and various other personal expenses like cosmetic surgery, a Cadillac Escalade, and a Pomeranian puppy.
Yeah, and again, you can seize a Cadillac Escalade, but it loses so much value as soon as you drive it off the lot. You're not getting your $2 million back. And you know what you can't resell? A boob job. You can't repo that. That's just there. Dateline, Vermont. In August 2023, Dana L. McIntyre was sentenced to 2 years in jail and 3 years of supervised release after he pleaded guilty to 4 counts of wire fraud and 3 counts of money laundering. What did Dana L. McIntyre do? Great question. He filed fraudulent PPP applications for more than $660,000. He did have a legitimate business. It was a pizzeria. But instead of using his PPP proceeds for that, he used his PPP proceeds to fund personal expenses, including $14,000 for a pickup truck. That's actually a pretty good price for a pickup truck.
That's a good price on a pickup.
And $8,500 for a 1950 Hudson. That also seems like a really good price. But it's the pandemic. Maybe he's picking these up cheap because people are pinched for funds because there's a global pandemic going on.
I can't picture a Hudson. What's it look like?
Oh, that was. Did you ever see Cars?
Sure.
Doc, the old grumpy one. He was the Hudson Hornet. So
voiced by Paul Newman.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that was
right. Okay, now I can. Picture
But
a
again, don't you think $8,500? That seems like
I think
steal.
it's a great. that seems like a good price for a Hudson.
I'd buy a Hudson and just try to resell it. I guess I don't know. I probably wouldn't. He also used some of the proceeds for home construction, kitchen remodeling, and more than $2,000 at a cosmetic spa because I guess full lips sell more deep dish pizzas. And get this, he also spent some of that money on an alpaca farm.
Yeah.
Just that's when you have too much money. That's when you have too much fraudulently obtained money. It's like, what else could I do? Oh, well, I already got all this cosmetic spa services. So, and I got a car from the 1950s. I guess
you got to use pickup.
My bucket list is all good. Oh wait, alpaca farm. I always wanted a farm full of miniature. What are the?
Have you ever encountered an alpaca?
Wait, an alpaca's like a what is it?
More like a llama.
Llama. That's what I'm trying to think. It's like a little llama, isn't it?
Yeah, except they're big. Like,
they're big. Are alpacas bigger than llamas?
I don't know if they're bigger than llamas, but they're pack animals. Like
I know they're not like cats.
And I mean they're very sweet and they're very docile kind of animals.
Yeah,
but they're big and when they get mad, I think they spit. I think they do kind of
That's what I've heard about llamas at least is that they spit.
Well,
llamas and camels,
yeah.
If I learned anything from cartoons, it's that those types of animals spit.
Yeah.
So, well, I think it might be worthwhile to pause from our narrative of the story of Dana McIntyre just to remind those of you who aren't suffering from PPTSD, which is post paycheck protection program traumatic stress disorder. The PPP program had very, very specific guidelines for what you could spend the proceeds of your PPP loan on and what you even must spend the proceeds from your PPP loans on. And alpaca farms and Botox were nowhere on that list.
Surprising.
Anyways,
Quite
in
surprising.
this article, surprising. Yeah, shocker.
Kind of. Yeah.
Anyway, an article in the New York Times in August 2023 said McIntyre claimed that he had viewed the money as a loan that he would someday pay back. And since it was just a loan, he thought he could spend it on whatever he wanted. Quote, "It was a pandemic and I panicked," said Mr. McIntyre.
Well, I don't know why I thought that quote was so funny.
It's
but
hilarious.
I panicked.
I panicked because you know what people do in a
so,
panic?
So they go get Botox. That's what they do.
Yeah, and alpaca farms. That's what anyone does. That's the human panic response.
Yes. It's fight or alpaca flight.
Right, exactly. Fun fact, Mr. McIntyre is also the host of a cryptocurrency radio show because nothing says I didn't do anything wrong like being so into Bitcoin that you host a podcast about Bitcoin. The article goes on to explain that McIntyre, quote, used the names of his adult children to apply for 2 loans for businesses that did not exist, including one named Dana's Dank Pies. Now, Caleb, not to give too much away, but if your fake business name is Dana's Dank Pies, you for sure spent some of your PPP money on weed. Like absolutely for sure.
Yeah.
Spent it on weed.
And I mean, you've got an alpaca farm in Vermont. So like it's, I mean, that was kind of a giveaway.
Kind of lines up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Does
it
kind of
does.
line up. Yeah.
Yeah.
McIntyre also told the Times reporter, quote, "It's just putting some numbers and letters and pretty much whatever you want. Instead of putting 7 employees, I put 47. That's my crime. That's the beginning of the crime, and that's the end of the crime." Sounds like a stoned alpaca farmer.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah. And listen, Caleb, every
Yeah.
quote from this guy is a gem. Here's another one. Quote, "It wasn't this mastermind program to steal money from the government and go up and start this alpaca farm. No, it unfolded and took on its own life form."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot some of those PPP proceeds went to some good edibles.
It's like he's saying, "Don't blame me, blame the sentient fraud that I birthed through Dana's Dank Pies."
A few final notes. First, many of our listeners are accountants, and it would be remiss of us not to call out a couple of pending cases that we found that involve their brethren. Okay?
Yeah.
One involves a New Jersey tax preparer, Leon Haynes of Teaneck, who is charged with 5 counts of aiding and assisting in the preparation of false tax returns, 5 counts of mail fraud, 1 count of aggravated identity theft, and 2 counts of tax evasion.
Wow.
This is related to his allegedly filing of more than 1,600 false tax returns for himself and his clients that claimed employee retention credits worth $150 million.
Holy crap.
Again, allegations at this point. This case is pending, but good Lord.
Yeah.
Okay. Second, in June 2023, 14 people in Texas were charged in a $53 million scheme involving some affiliated recycling companies that collectively applied for 29 PPP loans. The CFO, a couple of controllers, and an array of other executives are facing a slew of charges, including bank fraud, conspiracy to commit bank fraud, aiding and abetting, and conspiracy to commit money laundering.
Okay. Which is nice that they weren't charged with money laundering, just trying to commit money laundering.
Right.
Just
Taking a stab at money laundering.
Right. Chatting about the possibility of money laundering.
It is funny when you think about that. That's like what happened, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
allegedly.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Finally, a follow-up from a previous pandemic aid fraud episode. As you well know, we've done a few other pandemic aid episodes.
Yeah.
Episode 39 was on idle fraud. Episode 34 was on PPP. And our OG PPP episode, I believe, was episode 13. So
that's digging deep.
it is deep cuts. Anyway, this is from the idle episode, and you may remember Florida Congressman Joe Harding. Again, this is episode 39 on the idle fraud. He's the guy who came up with Florida's "Don't Say Gay" bill that was signed into law in March 2022.
Yeah,
a real delight. This guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, he then, as if I summarize the story, he got into some trouble with some idle fraud hijinks less than a month after he was sworn into the Florida legislature.
Yeah.
And as we told you on that episode, he pleaded guilty in March 2023 to wire fraud, money laundering, and making false statements. He was finally sentenced in October 2023 to 4 months in prison and 2 years of supervised release. All right, Greg, did we learn anything?
No, we learned nothing new from today's show. Just reminders of things that we learned from previous shows. I still, like, legit though, Caleb, I'm still, I think it's so interesting, even dare I say fascinating, just the weird, like, what is it? Like the opposing forces that any politician faces during a crisis like the pandemic.
Yeah.
Where there's people who need help and they need it now.
Yeah.
But also so the pressure is on to get these people the relief that they need right now. But at the same time, we know very clearly, and it's not just from the pandemic, it's from other relief programs that have happened in the past, is that whenever there's something like that, yeah, it does get thrown out there very hastily. But because of the haste in which it's thrown out there, there's tons of opportunities for bad actors to sweep in and to take advantage of the system. Now, a lot of the people we're looking at did it really like they were idiots, and like of course you're gonna get. I mean, that was. I mean,
and
again,
we appreciate them for it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But that's the thing. I remember filling out my PPP loans. And it was just one of those things where it's like you gotta send in your 941s along with them to back up what you're claiming your FTEs are.
Yeah.
But at the same time, yeah, could you fake a 940? Yeah, they're not
sure.
But even then you go, well, I guess I'm sending this to the government, and the government's got to have some sort of way of like cross-checking my 941 against the one I sent in. But then it's one of those things where if you have a massive amount of people who are all committing the same crime, there's safety in numbers. Not all of them are gonna get caught for sure. But the and I think that the right choice for politicians is to do it hastily, but again, that's the cycle that we see, is that there's a crisis, there's funds that are released to assist in the crisis, there are bad people who come in and snatch those funds up in nefarious ways, and then we spend a lot of time feeling butthurt and blaming the politicians who rolled it out too quickly for gross negligence, when really they were just that, like I said, they were caught in these weird crosshairs of damned if you do, damned if you don't, for real. Did you learn anything, Caleb?
Did I learn anything? No, I don't think I learned anything. I just think
we wasted your time today.
Look,
this was just pure indulgence.
This is just us having a good time yakking about some more pandemic aid fraud.
Juicy stories.
Yeah. What's interesting is that they have the statute of limitations, at least partially. I don't know what the nuances are of like the extension of that statute of limitations, but I mean, they're going to be prosecuting. They're going to be prosecuting people for several more years, and they're not going to get everybody.
No,
right?
No,
they're just not going to. And like what you point out is that, yeah, you've got to, in order to get this money, you needed to follow the instructions.
Yeah.
And so many people got money without following instructions. I have to believe that the most likely people who are going to end up getting away with it are the ones who followed the instructions to the letter.
Yeah.
But did it fraudulently.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Or again, you followed it to the letter, and then again, if you're, I think the biggest thing, like I said, you got automatic loan forgiveness. And again, I could be wrong. There's somebody's going to correct me on this, but I swear it was under $150,000. You
didn't even have to apply for the forgiveness.
You didn't even have to apply for
right.
automatic forgiveness. And so with that, it's like, oh, there's tons of people who either were misinformed on how they, kind of like the Dana McIntyre guy. I mean, if you take his word for it, he just was like, I thought I was just getting money and I could spend it however I want. I thought just like a loan, like a credit card.
Yeah, right.
I'm paying it back so I can spend it however I want. If I got to pay it back, who cares?
Yeah,
it's like, nope, that's not how this works. So people under $150, I bet you that there's bazillions of people who spent that money completely incorrectly, who just are never going to face consequences because they got automatic forgiveness. So there's never going to be any scrutiny given to them.
Yeah. I think the other thing that was interesting about these I mean, I think the Broward County Sheriff's story is extremely interesting because, again, it's similar to it's similar to the congressman in Florida who's just like, oh, you have people in public service positions, who are
taking advantage.
Taking advantage.
Yeah,
and I guess we should be grateful that they aren't getting a pass. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, like, I mean, it's those county sheriff employees, like they put in one of the press releases, they put everybody in there, and you're just like, oh, it's clearly these are just regular people who were fucking around, and they thought, oh, like they just. So let me ask you this. This is what brings up for me. How many, and like the McIntyre guy is a good example too. It's like, how many of these people just got bad information? Like somebody, they had a conversation with somebody who's like, yeah, man, I got 50 grand. I got 50 grand from this thing. I don't even have to pay it back. And they're like, what? And like, and then they fucking just go and do it. Like,
right.
Like what percentage of these cases are people that are just don't know what they're getting themselves into.
Right.
And they think it's just a free for all.
Right. I see. And I don't know. I mean, the way you just talked about that sounds very much like TikTok tax advice. Where
sure,
it's like,
absolutely.
It's like, yeah, get yourself a private jet and
write it off.
I write it off because you could make your money if you whatever they claim.
Yeah.
So I'd have to think that there is a percentage of people who were just getting bad advice, but I still would not give them a pass, even ethically, for doing that, because I think everybody understood the whole idea of that money was to help struggling businesses stay in business, not to fund your super yacht.
Yeah.
So or
an alpaca farm.
Or an alpaca farm. Exactly.
Yeah. And I didn't want to suggest that I think the people were deserving of a get out of jail free, but like
right.
it's just one of those things where, I mean, there's just like you say, getting your financial advice from TikTok, or maybe getting your government assistance advice from TikTok. Maybe don't do that.
That's
that
is a lesson that if you hadn't learned yet, I'm glad you learned it here at the end of episode whatever this is, 61 of Oh My Fraud, because you should already know that. Okay, that's it for this episode. And remember, saying that you employ 47 people when you only employ 7 people is not a rounding error.
And also remember, a rose gold and diamond pendant with your company's logo might be a legitimate business expense for a rapper, but it is not a legitimate business expense for someone pretending to be a tax preparer.
If you want to drop us a line, send us an email at ohmyfraud@earmarkcpe.com. Caleb, where can people find you out there if they're wanting to reach you?
You can hit me up on LinkedIn, Caleb Newquist, /Caleb Newquist. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Greg, have you checked LinkedIn in the last year?
I spent some time on there today. Accepting connection requests and replying to a couple of direct messages. So yeah, I get on there not all the time, but enough. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me through LinkedIn. It's Greg Kyte CPA is who I am. So I think it's /Greg Kyte, and you'll find me on there.
All right. Oh My Fraud is written by Greg Kyte and myself. Our producer is Zach Frank. If you like the show, leave us a review or share with a friend. Rating the show and leaving reviews helps other people find the podcast. Subscribe wherever you get podcasts. If you are an accountant and you want to get some CPE credit, listen on Earmark to do that.
It's a great way to get it.
Join us next time for more avarice, swindlers, and scams from stories that will make you say, "Oh, my fraud."
Fraud.